Okay, so we're going to take a look at Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called Algebraic Methods, and you will be familiar with perhaps all of this if you have done the Further Maths GCSE before. The chapter looks like this. So at the start, there's some work about algebraic fractions. This is mostly linked to sort of factorizing quadratics, okay, and then cancelling. So you might be able to see, there's an x squared polynomial, numerator and denominator there. You put some things into brackets, and what will probably happen is one of them will cancel, okay? And then it moves on to sort of newer content that's perhaps a little bit different from GCSE. So we're going to look at well, this is kind of a division as a fraction, but perhaps with some more difficult ones. Say, for example, when we have x cubed, how we deal with this. And, we are able to sort of perhaps factorize this one, or maybe even find a remainder. It's a little bit like long division that you might have done when you were younger with numbers. Okay, then there's something called the factor theorem, which is sort of like working backwards with understanding the roots of quadratics that you may have done at GCSE, so a little bit new. And then proof, okay? And the proof covered here is proof by exhaustion. That means like showing all the possible things that can happen. Proof by deduction, so you would have seen this at GCSE with stuff like 2n and 2n plus 2 and things like this, okay? And I think we also talk about counter examples in here, okay? But the harder proof is left for year 13. So let's just quickly talk about the first part, algebraic fractions. So we're going to have questions like this. And you can think of these fractions perhaps like divisions if you want to create a link between part 1 and part 2. So what do we do in general? Well, we need to be on the lookout for things like up here, the difference of two squares. X squared is a squared number. Okay, 1 is squared as well. And we've got the different sign between. So we know from GCSE that we can write that out as x plus 1 and x minus 1. Okay, however, that's quite a simple one. It's probably going to be more difficult than that most of the time. Next part, remember, if every single term in your polynomial has an x in it, then actually you need to just take that x out. Okay, and then we're looking for what is common to numerator and denominator. Well, it's the x plus 1 element, isn't it? So something like this. Okay. And as a general trick, perhaps not so necessary here, but start by factorizing whichever thing is easier, because often it will appear in the numerator and the denominator. So if you did this part first, for example, you could be on the lookout for x plus 1 when it comes to the numerator. This is quite valuable when you have something like this, okay? So let's do another one. Numerator looks like something to put into two brackets. Denominator, I don't think there's anything we can do there. So I'm willing to bet that x plus 1 is one of the factors for what is on the top. If x plus 1 was there, what else would need to go? Well, it would be x plus 2. Just quickly expand it out in your head, check that it works, and it does. Okay. And remember, when we do cancel here, this is kind of why I put it in brackets, just to make the link a bit more obvious. Really, that's a 1, okay? It's not a 0 in the denominator. It's over 1. And when we have over 1, we don't write that normally. Okay, next one. So x squared plus 9x plus 20. This is where I would start, okay? Factors of 20, and everything seems to be positive. I'm thinking 4 and 5, okay? So I'm thinking x plus 4 and x plus 5. That's what I would be doing, okay? Because chances are, just as a shortcut to you, chances are the numerator is going to have one of these things, okay? Also notice there's a 2x, and these both have only x. So that says to me, really, as sort of a speed tip, I'm doing something like this. So if I put a 5 here, So let's just quickly try with let's try left first. Let's try the 4. So if I did this one here, what would I do? I'd get 2x squared plus 8x plus, well, this would need to be 3, wouldn't it? You'd need 3 more x to get to 11x. And if you check, that actually works. So as a quick way for solving these questions, I would start with the easier one to factorize because it gives you clues what the other ones are. And I promise I just picked x plus 4 there at random, okay? If it didn't work, I would have just moved on to the x plus 5. Okay, same thing again. You might want to do the denominator first because it seems to be a bit easier here. And at the top here, look out for the difference of 2 squares. So it doesn't always have to be, x squared minus 9 like this. You are allowed to actually swap these around. So if you swap these around, you'll get 2 minus x and 2 plus x. Okay. And again, we'll be looking for things that probably cancel. This is a bit trickier though. You'll get 2 minus x and x minus 2 that are very, very similar, but they're not quite the same. So if you want to change things around when you've got a subtraction sign, the trick is that you multiply by minus 1. Okay. So if you multiply, how could we do this? Let's do x plus 2. Let's do the top. Should we do the top? Yeah, let's do the top. So if I multiply by a negative over a negative, because that doesn't change the value, a negative over negative, what would happen? Well, you could expand one of them out. And if you did that, this would become x minus 2. Okay, the 2 plus x is just the same. Okay, you don't multiply to both of them, you just multiply to 1. So that would become that, and that part there has now all been dealt with. The denominator, because you want them to match, actually you can just leave it as it is. So you'll get 2 plus x, which is x plus 2. You'll get the x plus 4 as before, and the minus, I put the minus down here, but it doesn't actually make a difference if you move that minus up there. Okay? This way of writing things with a minus in front in the denominator in this bracket is the same as the minus up front and then this. Okay, so just watch out for that one there, a slight variation. Okay, and that's where we're going to leave that section there. So this should be a shorter exercise, having a go at this in the book. If you are not already comfortable with it, make sure you practice your factorizing and quadratics, and you can check this with the solving on calculators as well, and perhaps even solving on calculators and using that backwards to find the bracket to check is also fine.